And joining me now is Tammy Bruce, Washington Times columnist, Fox Business contributor, and newly announced host of the Fox Nation show, Get Tammy Bruce.
Yeah, it's good that it's got my name and I'm me, so it's a good match.
Well, good to have you here.
Thank you, dear.
Let me talk first about the Freedom Caucus, which in the past has been very supportive of conservative presidents, whoever they may be. But there are a couple of members that have seemed to go off the reservation, so to speak. One is Representative Chip Roy, who just got in the way of this new disaster relief bill that was going to help $19 billion, going to help people. It's been pending for months now. And the other is Justin Amash, who has been calling for the impeachment of the president. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, look, Chip Roy, it's interesting because, as you noted, this has been going on for months. And it's always the last minute, right? Let's do it at the last minute.
Right.
He ran on ending business as usual. That's also why the president was elected. That was the sentiment, right, over the last election. And so this was going to be a vote with virtually no one present that would be a unanimous consent, where no one would have to vote on not only $19 billion of taxpayer money, no debate about that, but then also did not have the money for the humanitarian crisis at the border, which we know
But the president
exists.
himself said that could be taken up at another time.
Yes, I think that wasn't singularly the issue. I think it was more the fact that no one was voting. This was business as usual. It was at the last minute. And I think that is, for those of us who want transparency and for those individuals to actually do their job, that's much more in line with the conservative ideal. What Justin Amash, of course, is doing is playing politics and doing things that certainly don't help the country and weren't based in the notion of let's get back on our feet, let's have some unity, and let's move forward. His position, I think, was one to get attention. Chip Roy's position was one to really do a campaign promise and to get things better in a better framework in the House.
Let's talk about a much simpler battle, the one between Pelosi and Trump. The president was asked today why he was insulting Ms. Pelosi. This is after she said that he needed an intervention, which, for those who don't know, that's what you do to drug addicts and alcoholics and crazy people.
Right.
So he was the one that was asked why he was insulting Pelosi after she said all that. What do you make of that?
Well, that's typical.
Even for the media, that seems to be a little much.
Well, but look, there is an unhinged framework now. It's beyond derangement syndrome. There is a panic that has now set in because of the investigations, because of the AG's investigation, certainly the Inspector General Horowitz's investigation. Everybody there, by the way, knows what they're going to find. That's what. No one's sitting back thinking, what are we going to find out? Nancy Pelosi knows what they're going to find out. So does James Comey. So does Barack Obama. So does Hillary Clinton. Everybody knows. And I think that this is in large part a desperate effort to scream as loud as they can in the corner of the room to make you look away. And that's what they've been doing now for a few months. The president, of course, he is the president. He's had some tremendous success. His approval rating is in the mid to high 40s. Congressional approval rating moves from 13 to 15%. The American people, no one in either party likes what's going on in Congress. And as a matter of fact, though, of course, we've got usually now close to a majority approving what the president's doing. So he does have power. You can imagine what he could be accomplishing if someone like Nancy Pelosi and leadership, even in the Senate, actually were doing their job. The Senate is the one that sent over that $19 billion over to the House.
Right.
And so this is about slowing the swamp, calling the swamp for what it is, and having more transparency.
And the voters coming up will have a decision to make. The first couple of years of the president, you saw what he accomplished, whether it was in terms of deregulation, whether it was in terms of the tax cut, our relationship with the world in terms of dealing with our adversaries and our friends in a very strong way, a way that hadn't been done for decades. And then they can compare that to what this Congress, the Democrat Congress, has done, which is zero. A big fat goose egg.
Well, and that kind of commentary from Nancy Pelosi about engaging in a cover-up, saying the president needs an intervention, that's listened to around the world. Yeah. The world doesn't care what Nancy Pelosi is thinking. The world cares and is affected by the president of the United States. That has a direct negative effect on the ability of the United States and its president to actually not have a war break out, to get done what we need to get done, and the notion of confidence here in the country. Yes, the president's doing specific things, But the American people are watching him deliver on promises. So, as we know here at the Fox Business Network, that this is about consumer confidence and about the sensibility from the American people about what does the future look like. The Democrats seem to want to have the American people be depressed, and they want the world perhaps to not take the president seriously. That's dangerous. It's going to get Americans killed if a war breaks out, obviously. And we need to unify, not just because, it'll be more comfortable, but because that's what the American people want, and it's what will keep this nation safe.